On Wednesday, Biden was joined by UK leader Boris Johnson and Australia's Scott Morrison to announce a major new military alliance called AUKUS. It's a defence pact on what Biden says is his top foreign policy priority, the justification even for his disastrous Afghan pullout, a focus on constraining China. This was a new multi-billion-dollar military pact with nuclear submarines, intelligence sharing, troop deployments, the lot. And this is how it went down.
Thank you, Boris. And I want to thank that fellow down under. Thank you very much, pal. Appreciate it, Mr. Prime Minister.
The Prime Minister of Australia, that fellow down under. Scott Morrison. It's not exactly a complicated name. There are 3 countries in this new alliance, the US, the UK and Australia. It wasn't the G20. Obviously, that would be impossibly confusing. 19 other leaders, forget about it. It wasn't even the G7. He only had to remember 2 names. But it was that fellow down under. He called his own Defense Secretary General when he couldn't remember his name. I suppose it's better than boy, the term Biden usually reserves for black men who work for him. I wonder what Biden calls his vice president when he forgets who she is, which, let's face it, is a mistake any of us could make since she's totally absent from every single problem she's supposed to be working on. Maybe Biden just calls her the woman next door. You can imagine how he refers to Nancy Pelosi when he forgets her name. You know, the crazy lady from San Francisco, the boss. We can see just how bad things have gotten for Biden when CNN's Jake Tapper talked this morning about multiple crises of Biden's own making, and even Chuck Todd compared him to Jimmy Carter. Todd asked one of his guests about the mood in the White House in the face of all this chaos and disaster.
The mood is one of soldiering on. I mean, they're certainly embattled right now, but this White House has said from the beginning Joe Biden can chew gum and walk at the same time, and all the people around him can do the same.
No, he can't. He can't walk or chew gum at separate times, never mind the same time. This is a man who has to be told by his handlers when he needs to wipe his own chin. It's not funny, actually. This obviously incapable man is supposed to be the leader of our country. And because he's incapable of doing his job, because there is evidently no one in charge of the runaway train, America itself, even the idea of America, is at risk. This week, I voted for the first time in an election here as a new US citizen in the California recall. It was such a proud moment for me. It really brought home the significance of the choice I made when I decided to become a citizen and the incredible blessing I received when it happened a few months ago. But what is happening to America? Under Biden, it seems that the things America stands for are eroding, collapsing at an astonishing pace. Did you ever imagine that America, whose unimaginably brave soldiers on the beaches of Normandy helped turn back the Nazi tide, whose strength and resolve in the face of the Soviet menace won the Cold War, enabled my family in Hungary, like hundreds of millions of other families, to finally live in freedom? Did you ever imagine that this country, our country, America, would scuttle away in the middle of the night from an unwon war, leaving its allies, its equipment, and its own citizens trapped behind enemy lines? Did you ever imagine that the head of America's military, the man who's fully complicit in that national humiliation, would openly, brazenly brag to every passing journalist that he attempted a coup, undermining the duly elected president, the chain of command and civilian control of the armed forces? This is America, and yet instead of resigning in disgrace, this preening, puffed up, bloated narcissist, General Milley, is swaggering around like the head of a military junta in a failed state. Did you ever imagine that in America, the land of opportunity, the shining beacon of inspiration to everyone in the world with a dream and desire to work and succeed, free of the stultifying snobbery of the old world's aristocracy and envy and class snobbery, that America would become a place where a disgusting, hypocritical, ruling elite preach class warfare while swanning around like Marie Antoinette? Did you ever imagine that America, whose founders prized transparency and accountability and a free press so much they put it in the Constitution as the First Amendment, did you ever imagine that the president, the transportation secretary, who knows, we need to find out, would imperiously issue orders to physically prevent the American people from seeing what's happening at their own country's border. And even with all this, perhaps the biggest and most egregious betrayal of all, did you ever imagine that in America, the birthplace of the most liberating and noble ideas in the history of human government, checks and balances, the decentralization of power, that in America, we would see an actual president, an actual political party push forward a vast, unprecedented, insane centralization of power in the hands of federal government bureaucrats, taking control of how we raise our children, how we build our homes, how we live and work and play, everything run from Washington, D.C. by an unaccountable bureaucratic leviathan on a scale the world has never seen, bigger and more costly than yesterday's Soviet Union or even China today. This $3.5 trillion centralization scheme is not just un-American, it is anti-American, and it must be defeated. Everywhere you look, this appalling Biden regime is falling apart. Trump gave Biden a strong, effective vaccine in record time. Now Biden's totally screwing it up. Last week, fueling vaccine hesitancy with ludicrous, unscientific gobbledygook about protecting the already vaccinated. This week, it was chaos over boosters. Trump gave Biden a strong, fast-growing economy, and now Biden's screwing that up. Unfilled job vacancies, rising inflation, collapsing confidence, and much worse to come if their mad plans in Congress go through. And most visibly, of course, Biden is screwing up the border. Trump gave Biden a strong, secure border. In just a few months, it's become a disastrous, desperate joke, a humanitarian crisis of global proportions. Everything Biden touches falls apart. They promised competence, but instead brought chaos. Instead of compassion, they've given us cruelty. No principles, just politics. No integrity, just vanity. There's a stench of death about this Biden regime, and the quicker we put it out of its misery, the better. Tell us what you think at Steve Hilton X and at NextRev FNC, and share this message